That's my call. You know what that means, guys. Everybody out, come on. Let's help out. Make believe you are a champion. Say I'm a champion. Imagine that. All right, give yourselves a round of applause. Good job. All right, just checking for a pulse. It's still there? All right. Are we saving seats? Are these seats reserved, or? No, I mean we can hang on to one there. All right, we got two more up here, guys. If anybody needs to sit up here, we have two more up front. All right, so welcome, my Elevation Health family. Thank you so much for being here. Raise your hand if you brought a guest tonight. Let me see. Hands? No? Raise your hand if you are a guest. Oh, we have one guest. All right, give her a round of applause. Yeah. Awesome. All right, I'm excited for everybody here. We're going to learn some new and exciting things. And how many of you guys this is your first workshop tonight? Wanda, we know this is your first workshop. Anybody else? You've been to one before? Miss Robinson. All right, give her a round of applause. That's her number one. You guys are in for a treat tonight. How many of you guys have been to 3 or more workshops? 5 or more workshops? 10 or more workshops? 20 or more workshops? 50 or more workshops? So we got the 2, 3 for the 50 club, 4 for the 50 club. How about 70 workshops? Now we got one standing. All right, give her a round of applause. Denise.
I want to see the log. I want to see the proof.
You want to see the log?
The log.
Well, you know, I mean, you're right up there. I know that. Well, why do we do this? I mean, why do I take the time to go through this? Because when you hear that, I mean, is there anybody here who's surprised to like, well, I mean, they're coming 50, 60, 70 times to workshops. How is that even possible? We do these once a month, so do the math. How long have I been doing these workshops for? This year, I think, was actually the end of this year. It'll be our 20th anniversary. So we started doing them in 1999, yeah. And so we have an old saying, you know, when you stop learning, you stop growing, and when you stop growing, you start dying, yeah. So I'll never forget the first workshop that I did. It was in Volunteer Park, right after they got done building it. I think they built it in 1998. Did my first workshop there, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. So many people, so excited, learning so many things that they never even knew. Wow, I like it. And you know what? I'm even more excited tonight than I was 20 years ago. I can't wait to see the look on your faces. I'm going to boggle your mind with a couple of things. I'm definitely going to challenge you and your thinking. Who's ready to be challenged? Say aye. Aye. Good. All right. Jim, if you can, just check the AC on this side also. We don't want to start dozing off here if we get up to 80 degrees or so, but we're not going to let that happen. So next month, guess what? Next month is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Will you guys wear that? We're going to start seeing all the pink ribbons on TV, commercials, NFL games. Everybody's going to be wearing pink. Why? Because they're trying to raise money for breast cancer awareness, and we've got the cure, and we're going to talk about that at that workshop. So there is a cure for cancer, and if you're really curious and you're really serious about that, make sure you're here. It's next month. Mind-blowing blockbuster event. Dial it in your calendar. How many of you guys have one of these workshop cards? Do you have a workshop card? If you don't have a workshop card, you want to get one of those because it tells you what month is which topic, and you don't want to miss a lot of these. I mean, they have the answers to everything that you need health-wise. So it's October 15th. Make sure you dial it in your calendar. And I am going to start off with a clip here, just to set the tone. Love when this happens. Let me set these little challenges here.
Dad, what are you doing there? I can't come home tonight. What about football? I'm not going to be around anymore, so... When are you coming back? I'm sorry. I don't understand this.
Ben, can you come with me, please?
So that's what you call the widowmaker, and that doesn't hit people that are older. That guy that you saw there, he wasn't an old man, was he? And that's the message that I want you guys to get. It doesn't matter how old you are, how many different medications that you're on, you never know what tomorrow brings. You could be feeling good, fine. Now they have you on all these different medications and they say, okay, you're good. You don't know what tomorrow brings. God forbid something like that happens. And I'm going to lay out everything that you need tonight so that you know whether or not you're moving toward that or away from that. And it's not just men, it's women also. The number one disease killer for men and women every year is heart disease. It's 1 million people a year. But there's 6 times more women that die from this, from heart attacks, than from breast cancer. Were you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's 3 times more people dying now from cardiovascular disease than there was back in the 1930s. So as we age as a population, and as we get older as a nation and we become more wealthy as a nation, we have greater technology, we have great doctors, we have the best of everything in this country. Shouldn't that be decreasing? You know, why is it increasing?
Because it is too expensive to get medical attention.
That's what we want to look into tonight. I'm going to expose some myths to you, cholesterol myths. First and foremost, what you're going to learn tonight is that lowering your cholesterol does not necessarily guarantee that you're preventing a risk of a heart attack or a heart event or any sort of early death that's related to the heart. Second thing you're going to learn tonight is that I'm going to introduce to you studies that show you that the lower your cholesterol goes, the higher your risk of other diseases and the higher your risk of mortality, which means an early death. You die earlier, the lower your cholesterol goes. So let's go into this here so you understand what the facts are. Most of us sitting here, we hear the word cholesterol and we don't think of something good, we think of something what?
Bad.
We've been taught that cholesterol is a bad thing when in fact it's not. It's something that your body makes. It's very, very important. Your brain holds 2% of the body's mass, but contains what percent of the body's total cholesterol? 25%. Well, there's a really good reason for that, because you need that for thinking. It supports brain function development. Cholesterol forms the membranes of every single cell in your body. Not some cell, but every cell in your body. The membrane of it is made of cholesterol. And that's an important fat that helps to regulate the function of that cell. What goes on inside of a cell? Almost everything. All of your energy, your metabolism, everything happens at the cellular level. Everything that we talk about in terms of function and healing. So when you're stripping the cholesterol out of your body, you're affecting all these basic functions. Cholesterol in the brain serves as a powerful what? Antioxidants. What do antioxidants help prevent? Cancer. Yeah. So now we're talking about promoting cancer or preventing cancer. Yeah, simply by discussing cholesterol, whether we're lowering it or we're raising it. So stay with me. So what happens to all these benefits? Brain function, cancer prevention, metabolism, right? As a result of lowering your cholesterol, what's happening to all of these functions if cholesterol is benefiting you at all those levels? If you're lowering it, how is it affecting you? Well, let's see what some of these studies indicate. Canadian Medical Association Journal. They said historically the American Heart Association recommended a level of 100 for prevention and 70 for high-risk patients. That's for your LDL, right? They said the new ideal LDL cholesterol was found to be 126. That seems to be high, doesn't it? Right? Your LDL at 126? Is your doctor going to like that? Maybe not. The new study showed the LDL level of 107 was associated with a 33% increased risk of what? Okay, yeah, so now we're coming down from that 126 at 107, 33% increased risk of cancer and death. And then when it dropped to 87, another 30 points down, it was associated with what? 50% increased risk of what? Cancer. So the lower your cholesterol goes, the higher your risk of what? Cancer goes. You see the correlation, guys? National Cancer Institute did a study, 12,500 men and women. Not a small study. And they found that the men with the lowest cholesterol levels were most likely to get cancer. Statin medications increase risk of death. This was an Israeli study they did, and it was published in the American Journal of Cardiology, medical journal. They tracked 300 adults from 3.5 years to 11.5 years, and they found that those who were taking statin drugs who had the lowest LDL, right? They were found to have the highest rates of what? What is mortality? Early death. Conversely, people with the higher levels of cholesterol had a what? Lower risk of death. You're starting to see the trend here. You're starting to see the exact opposite of what you thought and the exact opposite of what everybody else believes or understands. So the question is, where have you gotten your information from up to this point? We're getting it from doctors. We're actually getting it from drug commercials that promote brand name drugs like Crestor, right? Pravastatin, all these brand name cholesterol drugs that we're on. The doctors were taught about it, continuing education, by pharmaceutical reps. And the studies that were done were funded by who? Pharmaceutical companies. Okay, so this is what we have been brought up to believe, so to speak, and this is, the world that we live in. And we bought into that because we trust our family physicians, which are more than likely good people. They're just part of a system today that's really geared or based on profit and greed. That's where it comes from. That's what drives the system at the end of it all. Statins decrease brain function. How many of you guys have read the book Grain Brain? It can't hurt to read it more than once, okay? If you haven't yet, if you are intrigued by everything that you're learning tonight, you can actually drink from that wellspring, which is written by a neurologist who healed his own father of Alzheimer's disease, and everything that we're talking about tonight, he exposed at the root of it. And his father was on cholesterol medication, and these were some of the things that he wrote about in his book. Neurons rely on the delivery of what? Cholesterol from the bloodstream via LDL. What is LDL? Low density lipoprotein. LDL, they said, is it the good or the bad cholesterol? The bad cholesterol. But for what you're learning here, it's not cholesterol at all. Oh my goodness. What have we even taught? It's so confusing. LDL is a lipoprotein which shuttles life-giving cholesterol to the brain. Now, the brain uses the cholesterol so that the neurons can fire. How many of you guys think that firing neurons in your brain is a good idea? Say aye. You're good. Okay, you're still with me. That's good. Okay, so again, when you're lowering that cholesterol, when you're lowering that LDL, how are you affecting the brain in terms of what it relies on for those neurons to function? So, okay, so I get it, Dr. Yachter. What can I take to lower my cholesterol naturally? I believe in what you're saying. I don't like taking medications. You might be one of those people, right? So I get this question all the time. All right, so Dr. Yachter, what can I take to lower my cholesterol naturally? I don't want those drugs. I don't believe in drugs. I don't like those statin drugs. Can I take something naturally to bring my cholesterol down? Brewer's yeast, whatever it is. So, what do you think the answer is to that? If what you just learned was taking your cholesterol down increases your risk of cancer and increases your risk of dying early, then what did we miss there? Hello? Why would you want to bring your cholesterol down? If it's helping prevent cancer, if it's helping to prevent Alzheimer's, if it's helping to keep you young and healthy physically and mentally, why would you want to take that cholesterol down? Right? Framingham study. This was one of the largest heart trial studies that was ever done and published. They started in the 1950s, and they followed these people up. 50 years later, 1,900 participants, and they tested all of them for all the features that were found with Alzheimer's patients, evaluating memory, learning, concept formation, concentration, reasoning, organizational abilities, all the features that Alzheimer's patients have. So they tested all the people, and they looked at their cholesterol levels. And guess what they found? That the people with the lowest cholesterol scored the poorest. The people with the highest cholesterol scored the what? Scored the highest, yeah. So again, these are studies which pretty much tell it plain and simple. Parkinson's disease, it's not just Alzheimer's, it's all these neurodegenerative disorders in the brain and the body. Journal, movement disorders. They published this, they said the people with the lowest LDL were at increased risk for Parkinson's disease by 350%. Is that insane? So, yeah, but, you know, isn't there such a thing as dangerously high cholesterol, Dr. Yachter? I mean, I know what you're saying. You know, it kind of makes sense. I really don't like taking prescription drugs. I don't like that. I'm not that kind of person. And but my doctor says it's really dangerous. You know, I could have a heart attack. Is there really such a thing as dangerously high cholesterol? Have you ever heard of somebody with a 400 or 300 cholesterol that had a heart attack? I don't know. I personally haven't. But let me show you what's at the root cause of it, because it's not the cholesterol. They found in medical journals that cholesterol is an extremely poor predictor of a heart attack risk. So that's really not going to tell you whether or not you have a heart attack coming down the pike. It's not the cholesterol. And the idea that lowering cholesterol to very low levels has medically and categorically been refuted. Unequivocally, black and white. Journal of the American Medical Association, 1,000 participants. I mean, this is a large-scale trial. They found that people with low cholesterol had what? Just as many heart attacks as the people with high cholesterol. And I like this one, 75% of the patients hospitalized with a heart attack had cholesterol where? In the normal ranges. Yeah, that's what you're going to see. If you go to the ICU right now, any hospital, anywhere in our city, you'll see people who have just had a heart attack, and the two medications that they are on are what? Blood pressure and cholesterol medications. They're being properly managed by their primary care physicians. They're on the right medications, but they still have a heart attack or stroke out. Why? Because they're not correcting the cause of the problem. They're not correcting the cause of the heart disease. Cholesterol is not, in and of itself, the cause of a heart attack. It can play a role, and I mean, it can light the fire, but it doesn't spread the fire to where it becomes a full-out 5 alarm. You know, five ring. What do they call it? Five-star alarm. Yeah. So the real culprit that we need to look for is not cholesterol, but it's inflammation. It's what? Inflammation. Yeah. So I was talking to a patient last week, and a young girl. I mean, my age. And that's all right. Yeah, that's all right. Thank you for your support. And, so I'm trying to imagine that she's on blood pressure medication and she's on cholesterol medication. So the doctor said her cholesterol is just off the charts, 300 plus, whatever it is. She's shaking her head. She's like, I really don't like it. I don't want to take it, but I have to. And I said, okay, so you have a blood test. Let me look through it. So I looked through the blood test, and I said, I see where your cholesterol is. Your LDL it's right about where mine is. It's it's not that high, but anything over 100, they're going to put you on the statin. So it was over 100, so they got that. Her triglycerides were okay, and her HDL was on the high side, which is good. So her total cholesterol was it was in the 300s, which isn't like crazy high as far as what I've seen and what I know. But the one thing that was missing from her blood test was this right here, HSCRP. This tells the whole story. So these are the inflammatory markers. And unless you ask your doctor to make sure they test for this, you will not have the most accurate indicator in terms of whether or not you're at imminent risk for a heart attack. It doesn't matter if your cholesterol is at 200, 300, 400, or 600. You could be running a 400 cholesterol and have zero inflammation in your body and be at zero risk for a heart attack. And that's what these medical studies show. The New England Journal of Medicine, they published this. They found that the patients with the low HSCRP, the low inflammatory markers, had fewer heart attacks no matter what their LDL cholesterol was. And they had more heart attacks if their HSCRP was elevated regardless of what their cholesterol was. You got that? So what's the most important number that you need, or the most important indicator on that blood test that you need to look for to see whether or not you really believe that you should take that prescription. Is the what? Yeah. If you just look at the cholesterol, that in and of itself is not warranting that prescription. So those are the values, and again, you know, your physician should be aware of that, and that's a discussion that you can have with them. Low T. Low T. Have you heard of low T? Have you seen the commercials for low T? What does the T stand for? Testosterone. Right? Testosterone is a hormone. Right? So hormones at their most basic level are synthesized from cholesterol. Hey, how about that? So what happens when you start stripping cholesterol out of your body? What does that do to your hormones or your hormonal balance? It throws it way out of whack. And that's why one of the most common side effects of cholesterol medication is a decrease in libido and depression and a lot of other, symptoms which are the result of taking the medication, side effects from the medication. So that's one of the most common complaints published in the Journal of Family Practice, Journal of Sexual Medicine. They found that the patient lab reports have repeatedly demonstrated those on statins are what? Twice as likely to have low testosterone levels. And now we have a whole industry, a disease that they've created out of this as a side effect, partially for taking cholesterol medications. The other thing that drops your testosterone like a bomb is sugar. And the other thing that drops your, testosterone is a sedentary lifestyle, not getting enough exercise. So all of these lifestyle changes that we can employ can fix all these instead of taking the medications. Because when you start taking the medications, they don't give it to you for a day, a week, or a month. You're on it for what? For the rest of your life, yeah. So what's amazing to me is that you take a drug and then you have a side effects, and then you have to take drugs for the side effects. Yeah. So this probably won't work, but we do have medications that'll take care of the side effects. Calcium channel blockers cause a 26% increased risk in having a heart attack or heart failure. Some of you guys are on this or know people. These are brand name drugs: Cardizem, Procardia, Tyzac, Norvasc. 48% increased risk of diabetes with women taking statin medications. And then, it's like the medical merry-go-round. Once you start taking one medication, you're increasing your risk of diabetes. Now they put you on diabetes medications. Now you're on metformin, and it can increase your risk or your chance of dying of a cardiovascular problem by what? 250%. Now, I've seen this happen a lot. I've actually seen this happen to one of my patients. He was on blood pressure medication. He was overweight. He was on the blood pressure medication. And he was on it long enough to where it caused insulin levels to go up. And then they put him on the diabetes medication. They actually put him on one of the diabetes meds that found in a Wake Forest University study to cause a 64% greater likelihood of having a heart attack than from, dying from the diabetes. 64% greater risk of having a heart attack. And he had the heart attack. And darn near killed him. He was laying on the operating table bleeding to death because they nicked his left ventricle trying to stabilize him. Yeah. And he was overweight. That could have been prevented. Very, very simple, by just starting to eat good, exercise, and but this is the alternative. When we don't get our life and our health under control, and something isn't done to stop it from getting worse, it does. It does. And just because you're taking the medications, it doesn't mean you're healthy, right? Health is not the absence of symptoms. Go home and look it up in the dictionary. You will not find an operative definition of health that says anything about feeling good, no pain, absence of symptoms. The operative definition of health is function, when your body is functioning properly. And prescription drugs don't improve function. They stabilize function to fit the guidelines of what that drug trial study wanted to accomplish, and nothing more. Blood pressure medications. Some of you guys are on this: Lipressor, Toprol, Tenolol, Lisinopril. You ever heard of those? Brand name drugs, right? Chest pain, shortness of breath, depression, confusion, memory problems, hallucinations, constipation, heartburn, diarrhea, decreased sex drive, impotence, headache, fatigue, insomnia, anxiety. And so the list goes on. A lot of people come into my office and they'll have different types of symptoms like this, constipation, diarrhea, they lost their libido. And, I could look here and there, but the first place that I look is to see what kind of medications they're taking. Yeah, these are not side effects. These are effects. These are drug effects. that's what they are. You can't take a drug and not have a side effect, even if you feel fine. If you think you feel fine, it doesn't mean that something else isn't being altered or affected in your body. And we're finding this out now. 8 weeks ago, they recalled valsartan. How many of you guys heard of valsartan? Some of you guys were on it, and you didn't know it because we blindly trust our doctors. Hey, they got to know what they're talking about. The FDA passed it. It's got to be safe. I mean, somebody's got to be the gatekeeper, right? But the reality is that every drug that we take, they don't do long-term studies. They're not going to look back after 10 years and say, oh, there wasn't a problem. Look at what they found with aspirin. I mean, you go back and go home tonight and Google adverse drug side effects and look at all the brand name drugs over the last decade or two that you've heard of that they took off the shelf that they found were killing a number of people. And those are the same drugs that you saw on the 6 o'clock news as wonder drugs, breakthrough wonder drugs. So just be honest with yourself and realize that it doesn't, I mean, your doctor, just because they say here, prescribed it's safe, passed the FDA study, blah, 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 that's now. What happens 10 years from now when they look back, or 5 years from now, and they look back and they see, all these people that have lost their lives because of this, or becomes an impurity linked to cancer, right? Same thing with aspirin, yeah. So what is normal blood pressure? Anyway, if you went on a blood pressure medication because your blood pressure was running 130 over 90, or 130 over 85, or 135 over 85, that's borderline, In my opinion, people don't need to be on medication for that. And there are a lot of physicians, medical physicians, who would agree. But there are some old-timers that wouldn't agree, and they just want to be conservative, because that was the standard of practice when they went through medical school 30 years ago. I don't know. But I'll tell you now, if you look this up on the Mayo Clinic website, they'll say if you're a healthy adult, age 60, your treatment goal is less than what? 150 over 90. That's right. As you get older, your blood pressure naturally goes higher. If you look it up, you'll see that. There are different levels for different ages. And so as you get older, your blood pressure naturally starts to migrate higher. So don't get caught into that trap. Now remember, if you're exercising and you're eating good and you're getting adjusted, you're less likely to have to worry about this because the blood vessels are going to be more elastic. Your body's going to be much more intelligent about managing the blood pressure the way it's supposed to be. And these are the keys. This is what separates you from being here in this room, under chiropractic care, eating good, exercising, managing your lifestyle properly, right? You're far less likely to have a cardiovascular event, if at all, than somebody who doesn't do that and just takes prescription drugs. Completely different lifestyles, completely different expectations. So just know that I'm proud of you guys because you're sitting here right now because I know what you want, and I'm trying to help you have peace, right, instead of fear, right? God has not given us a spirit of fear. So peace is what should enable you to be led to make the right decision in your life, not fear. So we give you the information, and I don't want you to blindly take my suggestions either. Right? Don't do what I say just because I say you should do it. Get the information, process it. You know what? Mill over it. Do your homework. Pray on it. Think about it. And then do what's right for you. I know what makes sense to me. I'm laying this stuff out because it's common sense. At least it seems that way. Right or right? Yes. So the most important modifiable risk factors that relate to a heart attack are what? Things you all know. All know, right? Smoking, excess alcohol, lack of exercise, being overweight, and a diet high in what? Those are the things which are going to be the biggest predictors of whether or not you have high blood pressure or high cholesterol or a heart attack. It's right here. It's all for your taking. So hopefully you know that if you do drop 10 pounds, you have your best chance of normalizing your blood pressure. And if you lose 22 pounds, it reduces your heart attack risk by what? 75%, yeah. So for some of us, it may be easier said than done. And some of you guys can do it, and it's not a problem. You've done that before. And some of us, we just need a little help. We need a little hand-holding, just supervise us. weigh us in, tell me what I weigh, tell me what my body composition is, tell me what my body fat is, my visceral fat, my muscle mass, my water weight, and we can do that. We do that here. And that's a little scale that people stand on, and it breaks down the body composition. It tells you how much fat you have around your liver and your organs and all that tucked up underneath your rib cage. It tells you what your body mass index is. It tells you, how much fat, what your percentage of fat is, your muscle mass, water mass, all those things. And for somebody who's, interested in really taking a bigger step and making a bigger commitment, if you're one of those people, I would encourage you to talk to Deborah at the end of the program tonight. Because she'll sit down and she'll meet with you. She'll do that body composition analysis with you and discuss your weight loss goals if you're serious about it. We have a journal, we have a manual. It's got the recipes, it tells you what to eat, what day. We have the supplements that do that. And the program is guaranteed to help you lose at least 15 pounds. If you don't lose 15 pounds inside the 40 days, we put you through a second program at our expense. It works. I've put over 2,000 people through this program, and you're not just losing weight, you're losing fat. While your water weight goes up and your muscle mass goes up, most importantly, your metabolic age drops. So if we weighed you in on this thing, for most of you guys, you might be 50, 60 years old, and it shows that your metabolism is working like somebody who's 90. What good is losing 15 or 20 pounds if your metabolism is still creeping like a turtle when you're done with that? What do you think happens at that point? You gain it all back, right? So the most important thing about any sort of weight loss program is that you lose fat and that you reset the metabolism. Does that make sense? Yes. So again, this is very, very specific. It's not a shotgun approach. It's like we do multiple weigh-ins, and we make sure that you're losing the right weight in the right places. And again, it's very structured and very predictable. If that's something that you're interested in, talk to Deborah at the end of the program tonight. Normally it's $99 for that consultation. For the workshop special, it's only $27. And you can talk to Deborah at the end of the program, and she'll get you scheduled for that. Here's just a quick snippet of a couple of people who have done it.
Hi, my name is Carol Job, and I've lost 19 pounds in 16 days.
Hello, my name is Tim Kennedy. In the first 40 days of this program, I lost 35 pounds, exactly where I wanted to be. I got off my blood pressure medicine, I got off my cholesterol medicine, and I got off my heartburn medicine. And I feel wonderful.
Thank you.
So the reason why I wanted to bring that up is some people want to lose weight so that they look better or feel better, in their clothes. Some people want to lose weight just so they have more energy. But some people really need to lose weight because it's dangerous. It's dangerous to their health. And so I thought this was appropriate to mention now. I don't usually talk about this stuff, but with making application with what we're talking about, if you feel like you really need help, you want to lose your easiest, fastest 15 pounds ever, then this would be something appropriate. If you want to learn more about it, next Thursday, I usually do workshops on Monday, but next Thursday night, we're going to do a weight loss workshop. It's not going to be a big blockbuster event. It'll be a small group of people, and it'll really hone and zero in on the essentials that you need for success in this area. So that'll be not this Thursday, but the following Thursday on the 27th at 6 o'clock right here. We'll do that. All right? All right, so let's take a quick mental break here. I want to talk about some important business here and love on some important people. So I want to recognize a few people. Everybody give a big round of applause for our dynamic team, our dynamic staff. I don't tell them often enough that they're the best, so
Yes.
I give public recognition now, and you can never say that again.
They are the best.
Actually, they don't say that, only Jim does. I won't go there, I'm just kidding. I love you guys, so just got to mess with you. All right, so the things that are important to you and to us are getting results, right? That's why we're all here. So what we love to see is people get results. When we see your health improve, we see you're feeling better, we see your test results get better, we celebrate with that. And one of the most important things that you could do is your part when you do it at home, stay on track with your schedule, and that helps us do our part. So I want to recognize a few important people here who have done their part. And when I call your name, please stand up so we can just come around and crown you with the medals there. Ann Thomas. Everybody give her a round of applause. Ingrid Chen, there you are, right over here. And Maurice Morgan. Mr. Morgan. Good job, guys. Well deserved, well deserved. All right. And that's all we got. Okay. All right, so that was easy, that was quick. All right, so what I'm going to have you do now is stand up and turn and face the person on your right. And you want to put your hands on their shoulders and squeeze. I'm going to get all that stress out. Let's do a squeeze. Get all that stress out. And now do a karate chop. Does that feel good? All right, turn around and love your other neighbor. Good. And a little bit of karate chop. Get that blood flowing. Got to stay awake. Stay awake.
And stay alive.
Good job, guys. Give yourselves a round of applause. All right. Show goes on. So again, the question comes back to this. Does cholesterol clog your arteries? Does it cause coronary artery disease? I mean, after all, you've heard this over and over and over again. Where is this coming from? Well, if cholesterol gets deposited in the arteries, something can happen which causes a problem. So it's not so much the cholesterol as it is the oxidized LDL. All right, so the low density lipoprotein, when that gets deposited in the arteries, if it becomes oxidized, there's a process of inflammation that occurs. And the inflammatory process is what swells the arteries shut. Are you guys with me? Okay, so what causes inflammation? Sugar. Very good. Sugar, sugar, sugar. So therein lies the problem. It's not so much the cholesterol, it's the what? The sugar. And if you want to lower your cholesterol, it's very simple. Lower your sugar. It's the most simple way to do it. One of the worst things that we were recommended to do years ago, decades ago, was to eat a low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet. And as a result of that, the last few decades, our cholesterol has been going through the roof. That's why everybody's on cholesterol medication right now. So I'm not going to get into the metabolic pathways and the biochemistry of why and how that works, but you can easily correct this by lowering your blood, your blood sugar, by having less in terms of the carbohydrates which cause that, and start to gradually move toward having more fats and more protein. And so we're going to talk about what that looks like. Okay, so back to the artery, and if you look at the top artery there, that's a cross section. So that's actually looking through the artery. What goes through the middle of the artery? What does the arteries carry? Blood, right? So if the hose is big and fat and wide open, no problem, no obstruction. Then you look at the second one down, what do you see happening? Right, and this is where the inflammation is occurring. And it's irregardless of the cholesterol. So the cholesterol could be there, but if there's a diet that's high in sugar, it's going to cause inflammation, and the inflammatory changes are going to start to create that situation. Now, with a smaller hole like that, for the blood to go through, what do you think happens to the blood pressure? Goes up, yeah. So then you go to the doctor, and what do they put you on? Blood pressure medication. But most people are on blood pressure medication, or if they're a heart patient, they're also going to be on the cholesterol medication. But were there any recommendations given to correct the cause of this, like reduce the inflammation? Okay, anti-inflammatory nutrition, anti-inflammatory diet? No. So it keeps getting worse until it gets to this point right here where it's pretty much shut. Then what happens? Myocardial infarction. Yeah, so that's where you have the heart attack. And again, that's why they said 75% of the people who have heart attacks have normal, so-called normal cholesterols because of the management of that with statin medications, yeah, and blood pressure medications. It doesn't correct the cause of the issue. Are you guys tracking with me so far? All right, so this is why this is so important that you get control over those nutritional habits. So just remember, reducing cholesterol equals reducing the sugars. Where are the sugars? Well, if you look at this, you know, you look at this soda and you're like, yeah, high fructose corn syrup, we know that's bad. But what about juice? You know, when you pour an 8-ounce glass of orange juice, that's concentrated fructose. Now, the good thing about fructose is that your liver processes it, and it doesn't really affect your, you know, your cells and the blood sugar levels. The liver just takes care of it real quick. But the problem is that how many freshly squeezed oranges does it take to make a glass of orange juice like that? How many? 6, 8, 10, right? That's a lot of what? That's a lot of sugar. Yeah, so it does affect you negatively. So too much of a good thing is not a good thing. And then, you know, we'll have that, and on top of that, maybe we'll have our chocolate croissants, or we'll have our Pop-Tarts, our fruit bars. When you look at the labels on many of these, most of it is all sugar. Almost all sugar. And here's how, you know, you look at the label, it says the total carbs are 26, and the total sugars are 26. It's all sugar. Yeah. And so some of the, you know, the lesser suspecting things that you would look at, maybe potatoes or bread or rice or white pasta, all these white flour enriched refined carbohydrates, they're the worst of the worst, really, because long term, when you look at somebody's A1C, I mean, that'll give you a good idea of, you know, what their menu looks like most days out of the week. And this is really what's going to be driving your cholesterol, because that's where the fat is assembled in the blood from the rise in carbohydrates and the rise in insulin levels. That's where your body's going to make the cholesterol. So if you want to bring your cholesterol down, you need to bring this down. You see that little picture in the middle, that guy with the corn head? Yeah, it's hidden in there pretty good. Why did I put that in there? What is corn? Is it a vegetable or is it a grain? It's a grain. So not only is that a problem, but we talk about glyphosate, and we talk about, you know, these the pesticides that go directly into your brain and also increase your risk for Alzheimer's disease. What are the two crops that have the highest content of glyphosate? Corn and soy. Very good. Yeah, so pretty good reason to avoid it as much as possible, especially, you know, if it's not GMO, that's better, right? But the issue is that it's raising insulin levels, and it's causing your cholesterol to be higher than it should. If you start avoiding a lot of these things and you just go with proteins, fruits, and vegetables for most of the week, most of your meals, again, your body will correct its own cholesterol wherever it needs to be. I don't know where it needs to be. A drug study can't tell you where it needs to be. Your body knows what it needs, where it needs, when it needs it, and how much of it needs. Because it has its own unique inborn wisdom that I didn't put there. God put it there. Yeah. And the power that made your body knows what it needs to heal your body. It's an infinite wisdom, an infinite intelligence that we need to honor and listen to and make sense out of. Okay? So just take inventory. Look at your labels when you go home and see what you can do to improve upon that. I'm not going to say, you know, never have rice or never have pasta or never have bread. Yeah, every once in a while, you know, maybe once a week. I'll be the first to tell you. I'll go and have my 2 slices of pizza every Friday, and I like it. I do. I work out extra hard that day. And I enjoy my pizza. So there's nothing wrong with a cheat day. I'm not saying, you know, we can't have our fun, but, you know, I would tell you that, you know, 5-6 days out of the week, I'm eating pretty clean. 5-6 days out of the week, I'm eating like this. You know, for breakfast, I'll have my shake every morning, and my shake has 24 grams of protein in it. It's got very low carbs, maybe, you know, 5, 10, 15 grams of fructose carbs, and then on top of that, I'll have my berries, my blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, or whatever, as long as it's berries. And the most important part of that breakfast for me is the fat. I love the fat. The fat keeps me from getting hungry. I could go hours on this, and it doesn't affect your insulin levels. So you have your, you got your berries, you got your, your sugar fruits, low sugar fruits, which is most important. And you have a low glycemic index breakfast, which means that your insulin levels don't go up. And if your insulin level stays stable, your body stays in fat burning, and again, your cholesterol stays in check, and you have a heart-healthy start for your day. And this is really key. I call this the breakfast for champions. Those breakfast shakes are key for you guys. This way you're not going to be stuck trying to grab for waffles or pancakes or bread or Pop-Tarts or any of that stuff that is not good for you. The shakes are easy, they're quick, and they're cheap, relatively speaking, because all it is 2 scoops. And it's a meal, guys. It really is. It's a meal. So make sure that you have good fat. You can mix those shakes with almond milk or coconut milk. And so that for lunch, salad every day. And again, you got your protein source, which is salmon, chicken. Doesn't matter. I mean, as long as it's like from a good source, organic source, or it's grass-fed. You have your meat, you have your protein source, and then you have your vegetables or your carbohydrates, which is all greens. Don't think you're not going to get energy from greens. You will. You don't have to have bread or rice or pasta to have energy. You'll feel pretty good going on fats. When I ran the Disney Marathon, gosh, what was that, 15, 16 years ago? I didn't run it on pasta and pancakes. I didn't carb load the night before. The night before, what I had was salmon, and I had water-soaked almonds. And that's what I ran the race on. And I was actually popping water-soaked almonds the whole time. I will admit it, at mile 25, I caved and I had the gel. I didn't need to, I just wanted to. But I will tell you that all of my energy came from fat. And it's the best source of fuel for your brain, and it's the preferred source of fuel for your heart, if you didn't know that. So make sure you have some good fat. Salmon's a great source of fat. Put olive oil on it. Same thing with a Greek salad. Just pick something like that for lunch. That's the smart thing to do. And if you have all those good fats, again, you're not going to get hungry and be ripping for the vending machine in an hour or two. What do you see for dinner down there? What's that on the far left there? Lamb chops. How many of you guys like lamb chops? Yeah, grass-fed, guys. So, lamb chops or ribeye grass-fed, it doesn't matter as long as it's grass-fed. Now, I will say this, you don't want to go having red meat every single night. That's probably not a good idea. They know that red meat raises estrogen levels, which, I'm aware of some studies that correlated that with an increased risk of cancer, but that's people who eat it like every day. I'm not a big proponent of that. I'll try not to eat it more than once a week. I am a big proponent of having lots of salmon and good oily fish and some good chicken, a good source of chicken. So, but the point is you could substitute those lamb chops with the vegetables for any other protein source. It doesn't matter. You got your cauliflower, green beans, broccoli, it doesn't matter. Just pick whatever vegetable you want, and you got your protein, and then you douse your vegetables in butter and or extra virgin olive oil. So you got your protein and your vegetable and your what? And your fat. Now that's all you got to remember for every meal. And if you do that, again, you've eliminated the complex carbs, and so your body is going to now start to fix everything. It's going to fix your cholesterol, it's going to fix your hormones, it's going to get you into fat burning, it's going to get your body healing. Doesn't that make sense? And that's it, that's what it looks like. So with the Ultraplex Complete Clean, this is the shake that we have for the morning, that or the Mediclear, it really doesn't matter. It's got a complete multivitamin spectrum in it, it's got high levels of antioxidants, and it's also got a low level of daily detox in there, which boosts your liver and kidney function. I'm not going to get all into that, but you guys know how this works. So put a couple of scoops in there, mix it with water, almond milk, or coconut milk, and you got yourself a complete meal. Complete meal. So if that's something that you're interested in, talk to some of the other folks who do it every day. I can tell you there's some people in there who shared with me just by doing this and nothing else over a few months have lost 10, 15, 20 pounds, right? Some of you guys, just by doing that, nothing else. I mean, basically you're just substituting a meal and you're keeping your blood sugar level and you're starting your day in fat burning. And so again, you don't have to take vitamins and vitamins and vitamins. This has everything in it also. So you kill a lot of birds with one stone. So that's it. So And buying it tonight, like with all the other supplements, you get a discount tonight at the workshop. All right, so the other thing is replacing the bad fats with good fats. There's a difference. You know, they told us to have a low-fat diet, right? But there's a difference between fats. Not all fats are bad fats. You guys know the bad fats, right?
Yeah.
So the margarines and the synthetic butters, but then we have these hydrogenated oils, which some of us think are good, right? Like canola oil and corn oil, because they sound like vegetables and healthy things, and they're really not. They're either hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated. You got to be very, very careful with that. And it's used as many of them are used as a preservative because they're in almost every boxed, manufactured food that goes on the shelf. So just be careful with all those bad fats because they drive inflammation. You could be doing everything else right, but if you have those bad fats in there, you go out for dinner, like if you go to La Bamba, like I did the other night, and I had the fajitas, even though I didn't have the flour tortillas, I know they're cooking it in grease. I know they're cooking it in the trans fats. And that's why I felt like the next day somebody ran over me with a truck. So just so you know, this is how it works. If you go out for dinner, you got to ask them, can you cook this in olive oil for me? Can you cook it in butter for me? You go to Ruby Tuesdays and say, hey, can you cook this salmon? Can you pan-sear it in butter for me? You got to be very specific. Otherwise, you don't know what they're doing to the food. They're taking a good thing and they could be making it bad, right? So just be careful with that. These are the good sources of fat. Extra virgin olive oil, you can cook on it in low heat. Avocado oil you can cook and you can put it on your salads. Coconut oil. Coconut oil is great for fat burning. Did you know that? Coconut oil, great for fat burning. You can just take a tablespoon and just down the hatch. That's all you got to do. And you could go a couple of hours on that without being hungry. And your body's just automatically, it's just burning fat. So you could put coconut oil or butter in your coffee. How many of you have ever tried that? Yeah, you can actually whip up the butter and the coffee in a blender, and it's almost like a cappuccino. Have you try that? Yeah. So now you got thermogenesis exponentially. What is thermogenesis? It's fat burning, because coffee or caffeine is thermogenic, and that helps you burn fat. And then you got these good fats on top of it that put a turbo booster on it. Hey, you're learning some good stuff tonight, huh? Well, I'm getting ahead of myself, because I'm going to talk more about this next Thursday at the weight loss workshop. Grass-fed meats, grass-fed butter. You think I'm a representative for Kerrygold by now? There's better stuff out there, but what you get, what you could grab for at Publix is things like this. Pacific or wild salmon. Be careful and not get that farm-raised stuff. It's better if you just didn't have it at all. Just be really careful with your sources. There's an old saying, an avocado a day keeps the doctor away. Avocado a day keeps the fat away. Have a whole avocado a day. It's one of the most fat-burning, healthy things that you could do for your body, your waistline, and your brain. So every day, I have an avocado on top of my salad. So it's one of the healthiest. It's a superfood. It's one of the healthiest things that you can eat. And keeping on the subject of saturated fats, let's continue to talk about this very briefly. Every cell in your body requires what? You have to have it. Yeah. And there, it still pains me to watch it, some of these reports that they're putting out. Like coconut oil being the worst thing. They just crazy. The heart, this is the preferred source of fuel for your heart and your brain. Everything that you've learned tonight, half of all the cellular membrane is made up of what? Saturated fat. How could you not have enough of that in your body and your brain for it to work right? It doesn't make sense to me. So there are many medical reports to support what we're talking about also. American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, they followed these people from 5 to 23 years, 340,000 people, a large-scale study. And what they found was completely contradictory to what you've thought. Like the more you eat foods that are high in cholesterol, what does it do to your cholesterol? Raises it, right? Here's what they found. Complete opposite. Yeah. 70 to 80% of the cholesterol of the level that they see in your blood, that they tell you if it's high or off the charts, that's not from what you eat, that's from what your body makes. Because you're having a low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet. Your body's making that, so it's trying to heal itself. That's why your body's making that level of cholesterol. When I see somebody with a 300, 400 level cholesterol, 280, whatever, all I'm thinking is, hey, body's making that for a good reason. Right or right? Yeah. What they found with the food that you eat and the small amount of cholesterol that your body derives from the food that you eat only accounts for about 20 or 30% of your total cholesterol level. And what they found in this study was that the more saturated fat the people ate, the lower their total cholesterol was. Holy smokes. All right, tune in and listen to this. Intake of saturated fat was not associated with an increased risk of coronary heart disease, stroke, or cardiovascular disease. The actual risk for heart disease was 19% lower in the group consuming the highest amount of saturated fat. What are we talking about? Bacon and eggs. Cholesterol is eggs have high cholesterol, don't they? They told you to stay away from that. In fact, they told you to have egg whites only. Why? Because what do the yolks have? Yeah. When I look at eggs now, I'm like, I'll throw the white away. I want the yolk, and I want all the cholesterol I could get, because my total cholesterol is coming down when I'm doing that, and my brain's going to be firing on all cylinders, right? I eat the whole egg. I mean, I want all the protein, I want all the benefits. It's one of the most healthy foods that you can eat is eggs. Yeah. And, bacon, again, you just have to look at the source when you start going into the red meat, porterhouse, all of these things, they can be good for you if you have it from the right sources, like eggs, cage-free, organic. When you go into the store, please coach yourself. Like if you start grabbing for the ones that are cheaper, just say, no, darn it, I'm worth it. I'm worth it. If you buy organic and you buy all these other things that cost more, grass-fed, cost more, you're worth it, because it's always cheaper to eat good and prevent sickness and disease than to be lying on the table undergoing, surgery for a stent or an open heart surgery. Let's not be foolish. Your health is your wealth, right? Your health is your wealth. I'm going to give you 3 supplements. This is the supplement suite that was in your handout. And the reason why these 3 were chosen is because when we went to Thorne, we flew there, and this was in Idaho. And we sat down with the nutraceutical doctors. And they put all these 3 together because they're synergistic, which means when you take them together, they have an amplified effect or benefit, maximized benefit when they're taken combined. So the first one is Perfusia SR. It's got a precursor for nitric oxide. And, let me say this first. Do you remember the cross-section of the artery there? The cross-section of the artery where the blood goes through, right? So on the outside of that artery there, you see like a darker pink, a darker color, and that's the actual artery wall. The artery wall is made up of muscle, smooth muscle. Smooth muscle can contract, and when that smooth muscle in the wall contracts, it pulls the tissue closer to the wall, and it makes more room in the artery. You guys follow me?
Yes.
Okay, if it makes more room in the artery, what happens to your blood pressure? It potentially can go down. Yeah, it makes the blood vessels more elastic, more flexible, more adaptable. So this is really important because nitric oxide is what causes that contraction of the muscle. And the precursor to support nitric oxide is something called L-arginine. And that's what's found in this supplement, Perfusia. So it very much does support heart health, your blood pressure, and everything that we're talking about tonight. Next one is Q-Best, CoQ10. How many of you guys have heard of CoQ10? Coenzyme Q10. So that's a necessary molecule for energy production in all cells, and it just so happens to share the same metabolic pathway as cholesterol. So what do you think happens when you're shutting down the cholesterol production in your body? Shutting down the production of a necessary molecule for all energy in your body and your brain. And so, medical doctors are supposed to know this. If you're taking a statin medication, you need to be on CoQ10 to help prevent that and support that. So the side effects, shortness of breath, fatigue, vertigo, muscular pain, weakness, and atrophy, those side effects we know are caused by statins. And something like this can help offset it if you're not willing or not able to reduce or get off those medications. If you're taking a statin medication right now, and you're not ready to make that step forward to get off the meds, you really need to make sure that you're on this. And your doctor should have you on that. But not all CoQ10 forms are created equal. This comes in the most bioavailable form, which means the most usable form. It's 3 times more absorbable. So in the end, the best supplements are not what looks good on a label or what you put in your body. The best supplements are what your body can actually absorb and utilize. Otherwise, it becomes expensive urine. So, EPA and DHA, that's the other supplements. You guys know about this. It lowers your blood pressure, prevents arrhythmia, promotes growth of new blood cells, which is called angiogenesis, lowers triglycerides, prevents blood clots, counteracts what? Inflammation. So this is really important stuff, bang for the buck. These are really, really important supplements for overall heart health. So that's why that appears for your supplement suite. When you take all these together, they will significantly support your heart in terms of what we're talking about tonight. So it's a 20% discount on all of them if you buy them all together, all three of them together. And the only time that we discount the supplements are, of course, at the workshops. Another way that you can get a discount is if you write us a 5-star review. How many of you guys read reviews? I read reviews all the time, guys. If you don't read reviews, you're missing out, because you can prevent yourself from making a big what? Big mistake. Yeah, whether it's a restaurant or a product you buy on Amazon, or if you go to a doctor's office, right? When you choose a product or a service, you always want to go with the one with the most stars, the highest recommendation. Doesn't happen by accident. That's something that has to be earned, right or right? Yeah. So guess what? Your recommendation helps, because when people read those wonderful testimonials that you guys write, they're more likely to be tipped into coming into our office. And they're more likely, they're one step closer to having their life transformed. And you could very well be the cause of that, or part of that. Isn't that a good feeling? So, just, you write us a review and take a picture of it, and we'll give you a 25% gift certificate. And you could use it on anything up there that you'd like. All right, so just give me 5 more minutes. I'm going to close with this, something new and exciting.
Blood pressure, it affects millions of people. 1 out of every 3 Americans. And if left untreated, it can be deadly. Most people take medication to control it. But as Kate Merrill shows us, some patients have found a simple way to keep their numbers down without drugs.
The mad dash to get the kids to school. The crazy commute. And especially work. It's enough to raise anyone's blood pressure.
We work on deadlines, and with all the law changes, which keeps me in business, but keeps us also pretty stressed out.
Soon, that pressure from running his Cambridge accounting firm began to take a toll on Adrian Kaspar. He was forced to go on medication to control his blood pressure.
I believe in not taking medication, but blood pressure you don't fool around with.
I just have you sit right here.
That's why he came here to Dr. Peter Martoni, a Linfield chiropractor, who's using a new adjustment in the neck to help bring down blood pressure.
Now, if a bone is out of alignment and putting pressure on the nerve, it interferes with the ability for the heart to function correctly.
In about 2 or 3 weeks, my blood pressure was normal.
Bill Bird of Stoneham sells cars, another stressful job. He was also on blood pressure medication. After a few visits to Dr. Martoni, his doctor cut his medication in half.
Another 30 to 45 days, my blood pressure staying at the levels it is, I'm going to be off at 100%.
This treatment is experimental at this point, but studies show it might actually work.
This is a very novel concept.
Dr. George Bacris is an expert in high blood pressure. He's conducted a small, carefully controlled study with some of his patients at the University of Chicago Medical School. He sent them to a chiropractor for the same adjustment Dr. Martoni uses.
We saw miraculous changes in blood pressure. We've seen 12, 13 millimeter reductions in blood pressure.
The results were dramatic enough to catch the attention of the federal government. The National Institutes of Health is now funding a larger study to see if they can duplicate the findings.
Even Dr. Bacris admits there are a lot of unanswered questions.
I think we have to really find out what's going on. Why is this happening?
But Adrian and Bill say they have all the proof they need.
I've never felt better.
I just feel better. And feeling better is the way to be.
It's tough to argue with an outcome like that. Kate Merrill, WBZ News.
That's interesting, isn't it? So, how many of you ever thought that a bone out of alignment in your neck could actually throw your blood pressure off? And so you guys, yeah, you know now, but before becoming a chiropractic patient or having this, no, it's like, what does that have to do with anything? So they interviewed one of the medical editors after this study, and he said, yeah, I mean, we're doing continued studies on it. And then the anchor asked, well, how would people know if they did have a bone out of alignment in their neck causing their blood pressure problem? And the medical news editor said, well, they would probably have to get an x-ray, some sort of diagnostics to see whether or not that was happening. Because you don't know, really, because of pain. And he said that also. He said, like, you can't necessarily feel when bones are out of alignment in your spine. How many of you guys thought that you would just only need to see a chiropractor when your neck or your back hurt? Almost everybody, right? And even medical physicians know this, that you don't necessarily know if a bone is out of alignment in your spine. However, it can cause a lot of different health problems. Like in the upper part of your neck right there, it's not only the blood pressure, but it also controls your balance. It controls your feeling of well-being, neurotransmitters, sleep. So I've got tons and tons of patients that come in here, and maybe they don't have high blood pressure, but they have anxiety, and they're on medication for anxiety. They're on antidepressants. And they have the same level subluxation as somebody who has high blood pressure. Why is that? Because everybody responds differently. We're talking about a bone out of alignment on the brain stem. And the brain stem is a highly sensitive area. Yes or yes? What does the brain stem regulate? Neurologically, almost everything. Your breathing, your blood pressure, your immune system, sleep, balance, neurotransmitters. How many of you guys want to feel happy and healthy all the time? Kind of hard to do if you have a bone out of alignment jamming into your brainstem. Yes? Yeah. And again, I see a ton of people that come into the office and they can't sleep. They're on anti-anxiety medication and antidepressants, and they've got that right there, jamming in. And we work on them and they start feeling better. Their headaches go away. They start sleeping better. And that's the beginning of healing. It's not that what I do treats all that stuff, but that's only one small area. What about the rest of your spine? What if there are nerves that are out of alignment, bones that are out of alignment, putting pressure on the nerves going to your heart? You could have, maybe you don't get a heart attack, but maybe you have chest pain. You could have high blood pressure from it affecting that area. That area also affects your breathing. It can cause shortness of breath. It could cause fibrillations. So the first chiropractic patient was deaf and had his hearing restored, September 18th, 1895. What's today's date? 17th. That's tomorrow. That's tomorrow, the anniversary of chiropractic. And the second chiropractic patient was a heart case. And this is how the profession started. It wasn't started on back pain. They didn't have cars back then. It was horse and buggy. Right? So, you look down the line here and you'll see almost every condition known to mankind can have its origin in the spine. This is what makes it so insidious. You can actually have as little as the weight of a dime on one of those nerves. That little amount of pressure. And that's all it takes to reduce the nerve supply by how much? 60% in just 3 minutes. So, when do you think those two guys who told their story on TV, who their blood pressure came down and they felt great and they testified, when do you think that bone went out of alignment in their neck? Like the day they woke up with high blood pressure? No. When you guys saw your x-rays, on average, how long did I tell you that the x-rays showed that the problem was there? Days, weeks, months, years? Decades? Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Years. It's like not going to a dentist. You just don't think you're going to get cavities until you wake up one day and you got a toothache. It's not how it works. If something requires maintenance and you don't maintain it, you don't get a look in there every once in a while, there's a rude awakening, at least at some point. Your spine needs maintenance. And that's why the medical editor said you need to have your spine checked in order to know if there's a problem. You can't just go by how you're feeling. You can't feel a pinched nerve. By the time you have symptoms, it's too late. The problem's already been there. The tail end. Lord? Why you maintain a car, right?
That's right.
We take better care of our cars. You could drive your car, you're like, the oil light's flashing. Time to change the oil. No, let's just put black tape over it. And we'll keep going. If I don't see it flashing, that means everything's okay. That's what we do with our health. Take Tylenol or take blood pressure meds or this or that. We're just masking it, and we're not listening to the body. If you don't pull over and you don't give that vehicle maintenance, it's going to quit on you. And that's unfortunately what happens when people have fatal heart attacks. They feel fine, they're on the blood pressure meds, they're dead 10 minutes later. Wow, why? You wake up one day, you go to the doctor and they tell you you have cancer. Why? Well, it must run in my family. No, it's not genetics, guys. It's not your genes. 95% of whether or not you get cancer or you don't has to do with the choices that you make in your lifestyle, which either turn on those cancer genes or they turn them off. Yes? Yeah. Yeah. So what we're talking about is your neurology.
The
Yeah.
doctors make patients feel that way.
Yeah.
They tell them it's in the genes, it's a family affair.
Right. Right. Because they're not going to sit down with you and do what we're doing tonight, teaching you about lifestyle.
Okay.
When you're a provider for managed care, you're already paid on that patient. If you're in their office more than 3 minutes, you're costing them money. That's what you're doing. So that's unfortunately that's how the system works. So that's why we do this thing tonight, guys, because your health and our reputation is much more important than managed care. And that's why we take the time to do this, because we're giving you the answers. So again, the question comes down to, how do you know if you have this going on, causing health problems or robbing your body of health? You just don't know until you get a what? Until you get a test. And how important are those nerves? What do the nerves control? Some organs, some parts of the body, or what? All of them, yeah. Yeah, yeah, same thing. Same thing. So what are the diagnostic tools that we use to locate nerve interference? As the cause of present health problems, or as a means of preventing those which would be rearing their ugly head in only a matter of time? What's the diagnostic tools that we use? In here, we test, we don't guess. First thing that we do is a thermal scan. This is NASA space technology, it's thermography. So we'll roll that along the surface of your spine, right? And we look for a certain pattern to see if you're in balance or out of balance. And then we look at certain areas. And you know what? Sometimes, on like a scan over here where we see all the red and the orange, those are areas of concern. And more often than not, if I come in, if the patient's got sciatica or frequent urination or prostate enlargement, and I see all that color on the lower back, well, that could indicate some level of problem there. But then what do we have to do? Then we have to take an x-ray so that we can correlate both. And the x-ray will show us exactly what's going on, why it's there, how long it's been there, and whether or not it's something that we can actually help. And that's how we uncover these issues, which are the cause, the source of the root of why a person's body functions and heals properly, or whether it develops sickness and disease. Are you with me? Does that make sense? Yeah. So, a lot of people will come to the workshops. I mean, Ingrid, you sat here, 8 weeks ago. One of your friends brought you here. And Ingrid just happened to be having sciatic pain. She was numbness. She had a lot going on. Yeah. And she decided to get the test, and a lot of it's been resolved. It's come moving along very nicely. But then we'll have a lot of people sit here, and you're like, I don't have any issues really, but what you're saying makes sense. I've never really had my nerve system checked. I think I'd like to do that. Great. It's like, why do you go to, I go to the dentist, 4 times a year. I haven't had a cavity in maybe 20 or 30 years. I don't get cavities. We don't get cavities. Why? Because I get my prophylactic checkups, and I don't have a whole lot of sugar in my diet, so I just never get cavities. But I still go because I want to keep my teeth. How do you guys like to maintain, good dental hygiene? So what do you think that spinal hygiene might be slightly more important? Yeah, you get new teeth, but what happens if your bones rot and decay? Completely different thing. Like if we wore our spine on our face, we might think twice about that. So if you're a guest here and you're not sure, but it makes sense, and you don't have a chiropractor or you haven't had your spine evaluated at this level of detail, what I do is when you make an appointment and you come in for a new patient exam, I'll sit down with you in that room. I'll sit and I'll take time and I'll listen to you. Whether you got issues or not, we'll do a consultation, and then we'll do an evaluation. We'll run a thermal scan. And if the thermal scan shows that there are problems, then I may recommend that we take films. Now, normally to do all this is upwards of $350. But if you're a guest here tonight, on behalf of the person who invited you, and because of the workshop, we do that for only $47. And we rarely ever include the films if that's necessary. But because you're here at a special event and you were invited by a special person, we do that for you tonight only. So Deborah, can you raise your hand? All right, if you're a guest here tonight and you'd like to take advantage of that, please don't hesitate to see Deborah over there, and she can make that appointment for you. Also, think about this as well. I hear this all the time, and I saw this actually in my office. There was a lady sitting here, and she saw a lot of her friends from church, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't know you came here. I didn't know you came here. I didn't know you came here." She saw 3 different people, and she was sitting there. She's like, "How come you guys didn't tell me? I've been hurting for so long, So I realized, you know what? Everybody here knows people that are hurting, in pain, they're suffering. You know, just because they're not here, it doesn't mean they shouldn't have the access to what we're talking about. So, if, you know, you're welcome to purchase a voucher for them and give them a gift if you would like. And you can do that if you think that they're interested and that they would follow up with it. We'd be happy to do that for you as well. So, so I wanted to extend that to you all, and 100% of whatever money you spend on this offer that I'm laying out to you, 100% of that goes to our mission to Haiti. We support a mission through our church, and this has been very near and dear to my heart, and it's something that we've done for many, many years, actually since the 2010 earthquake. We managed to help almost to rebuild a whole entire village, and we keep going up there and we keep sending people, and we're part of it. And it's a big deal. It's, you know, they feed and clothe the students. The church doubles as a school, and it's really awesome. So yeah, actually, that's something that you're supporting as well. So at any rate, make sure that you get credit for tonight's workshop scheduled for next month's cancer prevention workshop. You have the flyer for the cancer prevention. You have the flyer for next Thursday's weight loss workshop if you'd like that. If you wanted to get a body composition analysis, you can talk to Deborah about that. If you're a guest here, please don't leave without seeing Deborah about your new patient consultation as well. So thank you so much for coming tonight, guys. I love and appreciate you. God bless. Have a great night.